out of the 17.1 million who are employed, we had about 747,000 who belong to a category of time-related underemployment. These are people who are saying that we are working, but we think we are not fully utilized enough in terms of the time that we are spending.
National Director of Public Prosecutions Shamila Batoyi has started giving testimony in Parliament today. Batoyi is appearing before Parliament's ad hoc committee, which is investigating allegations of criminality in the justice system. She has started by taking the committee through work being done to rebuild the NPA. Batoyi says she hopes lawmakers will strengthen and reform the system based on the recommendations from these commissions.
I'm hoping that the Commission and the lawmakers would take what comes out of this and then consider systemic inefficiencies and make recommendations in terms of how the system can be strengthened.
At the same time, the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry has heard that close to 300 Metro officers in Ekurhuleni had criminal records in 2022, while 100 were awaiting trial. This has been revealed by retired EMPD Deputy Commissioner Revo Spies, who has been testifying today. Spies says during a criminal record checking process, they found that 275 EMPD officers were convicted of criminal offences. The majority of crimes related to assault, theft, driving under the influence, reckless and negligent driving, with 15 EMPD officers awaiting trial for murder.
No illicit activity was recorded, and that is a total of 3,174 people. 275 officers that have illicit activity recorded, and then the 211 is still outstanding, which gives us a total of 3,762 at that stage.
To this now, clinical trials for the country's first locally developed vaccine in more than 5 decades are set to get underway soon. Health Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi has been leading the official launch of BioVac's oral cholera vaccine at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital in Soweto. The move marks the first time in over 50 years that a vaccine will be entirely manufactured in the country. The development is being hailed as a major step towards advancing Africa's vaccine self-reliance and strengthening the country's capacity to respond to infectious diseases through local innovation and production. Here's the health spokesperson Foster Mohale.
This initiative will launch phase 1 of the vaccine assessment in order to determine whether the vaccine can indeed prevent cholera infection. The clinical trials coordinated by South African Medical Research Council also highlight South Africa's ability to conduct such trials for multiple types of products.
And in Pakistan, at least 12 people have been killed following an explosion outside district court buildings in the capital city. The cause of the explosion was not immediately clear, but it is believed that a suicide bomber set off the explosion. Some security officials have told AFP that around 20 wounded people have been taken to a nearby government-run hospital. Police and paramilitary troops have cordoned off the area, which houses several government offices. Gold is trading at $4,143.27 an ounce. The rand is at 17.16 to the dollar, 22.53 to the pound, 19.84 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $64.06 a barrel.
On the N1 North is the earlier crash in the left lane after Proefplaas interchange, and on the N1 South after Allendale Road there's a crash. The vehicle's on the left shoulder, but you can still expect delays.
It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with afternoon showers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 22 and 24 degrees. The top story in EWN, the country's unemployment rate has dropped to 31.9% in the third quarter from 33.2% in the second quarter.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Relebogile Mabotja.
Live, streaming countrywide
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 1 o'clock. Welcome to 702 Afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja, on this Tuesday, the 11th of November. An interesting conversation we're going to be having today, and I want to hear from all of you. Now, here is the question. What is the role of the church, the mosque, the temple, any sort of houses of worship? What are their roles in a world today where people are struggling? So what is the role of all of these spiritual homes, worship, places of worship, in a time where people are struggling? I want to hear from all of you. Our tech feature, we're talking Africa Tech Festival 2025. We'll be joined by the Vice President of Africa Tech, David Monaghan, for this festival. Then in the second hour of the show, we continue with our series on the surrogacy journey in South Africa, which I'm enjoying so much. Episode 2, we'll be talking about understanding South Africa's surrogacy laws. And we'll be joined by Robin Friedman, South African attorney specializing in surrogacy and fertility law, as well as the founder of Robin Friedman Attorneys. And then we wrap up with our car feature. And in our car feature for today, we talk about South Africa's first accredited qualification for EV repair. We'll be joined by Louis van Huisteen, who is the National Training Director at Retail Motor Industry Organization, or RMI. Get in touch with us. Give us a call. 011 883 0702. SMS us 31702. Tweet at Relebogile M, at Radio 702, using the hashtag 702 Afternoons, and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702 Afternoons
With Relebogile Mabotja.
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
I have been dying to talk to you about this discussion. I've been waiting. Okay, so if you missed the question, here it is. What is the role of the church, the mosque, the temple, any other houses of worship? What is their role in the world today where people are struggling? What is their role? And maybe you can share what you see at your own church or place of worship. Whether it is some kind of community service, like your tithes, do you see where they are going? Now, there is a woman who is trending on TikTok after she did a little bit of a social experiment. What she did in this social experiment was to test if churches would help feed a starving baby. So she was testing to see if churches would help feed a starving baby. Now, when we use the word churches in this context, it is all kinds of places of worship. So her name is you can find her at Nicole Monroe. I want you to take a listen, and then I'm going to tell you the outcome of what all of these churches said to her, where she said, please help, my baby is starving.
So I'm calling your church to test to see if they would help feed a starving baby. And right now I'm about to call Woodman Valley Chapel. This is a non-denominational church providing gospel-centered teaching and worship services on weekends. And they host various community events, groups, and ministries. So let's see if they would help feed a starving baby, though.
Please hold while I try to connect you. Woodman Valley Chapel, this is Dawn.
Hi, I was wanting to see if there was any way y'all could help with a small can of baby formula.
I'm sorry, you're kind of echoing. I can't hear you. Do you have me on speaker? Can you take me off speaker?
Yeah, can you hear me better now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I was wanting to see if there's any way y'all could help with a small can of baby formula.
I don't have any. Have you checked with, Crossfire Ministries?
Yeah, I have. I've been calling everywhere all day. I have a 2-month-old and she ran out of formula last night. So I'm just trying to see if somebody can get just a small can. I mean, I can pick it up. I don't have any money.
Yeah. Do you Which one of our campuses do you attend?
I'm like 10 minutes away from the one that's in Colorado Springs.
Well, we have 4 here. So which one of our campuses do you go to? Do you attend one of our campuses?
I don't attend, no. I'm just local.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just trying to... Did you try Mercy's Gate?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have any way to help you with that. I'm so sorry.
So, she has a recording of a crying baby, and she does this exercise with multiple churches. Multiple churches. Do you want to hear the outcome? Are you guys curious to hear? So, she called these churches to say, hey, I'm not asking for money. She even says, I don't need money. I just need a can of formula. Of the Christian churches, which she asked 33, 9 of them said yes. All 9, and I'm reading the stats that were done from this social experiment. It's not us specifically identifying, but I'm going to share with you. And again, this is what the landscape is like in the US. It doesn't necessarily reflect what's happening here, but we're using this as a vehicle for this conversation. So of the 33 Christian churches that said yes, sorry, let me rephrase that. 33 Christian churches were asked. Only 9 of them said yes. And all of the 9 that said yes were predominantly black churches. The Buddhist temples that were asked 100% offered to help. The mosques 100% offered to help. One of the pastors of the church, which this woman called, and as soon as they said, all that they said is, I'm gonna help you, this pastor, and he was going to use his own personal money from his own pocket, right? Because this started trending, the communities and people online donated 92 or 94,000 US dollars to their church because he believes in the mission of helping the community. The other churches that had declined said, they pretty much said, do you attend our church? We can't help you if you don't attend our church, or we can't help you if you're not tithing here. The mosque that was called, or one or two of the mosques, all they didn't ask what you even believe in, was what kind of formula do you need and where are you? And are you able to come here and get it, or would you like us to bring it to you? So that is part 1. Here's the interesting part of this social experiment. So a young Black American man or African American man shares how he was inspired by the social experiment. So he says he wanted to test something out, and he went to the corners of the hood where he lives. He says he went to the crack dealers, right? The people that everybody wants to avoid. He went to this corner where the crack dealers stand and sell drugs. And he asked 7 of them, there is a woman with a baby who's run out of formula. Can any of you help? All 7 of them reached into their pockets without asking a single question. All 7 of them. And he's like, I cannot believe that all 7 of these crack dealers were there ready to help a mom with a starving kid. Now, to come back to the question that I asked, what is the role of our churches, our mosques, our temples in society when people are struggling? And then the most interesting thing is how you would see in the comments the number of people who would say, oh, you guys, we pour and tithe to the church, the one that won't necessarily help you because that money is being used to uplift certain pastors. I mean, 3 of the pastors came out from mega churches saying that we're not going to be basically lured by a witch and the devil. They described her as evil, saying that they knew that it was a test and they were not going to fall for the devil testing them. Isn't that interesting? Yet the crack dealers on the side of the road were ready to help. Now, you see in the comments the number of times people say, the gangsters in my area are the ones that come and donate. They're the ones who are coming through with extra money to say, hey, I'm going to buy pizza for the kids. I'm not going to draw any conclusions from what I've shared with you. But I want to hear from each and every one of you, what is the role of these houses of prayer and worship when people are struggling? And maybe share with me what it is that you see your church or house of worship doing in times of struggle, because many people are struggling. 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
Did you, as the JMPD, remove this banner, and on what basis?
One thing that's important to know that through the City of Johannesburg, we've got various bylaws that regulate how the city works, and one of these bylaws is the outdoor advertising bylaws. And for a person who wants to advertise whatever signage that they need to do, they need to apply through the city, and once that is approved, or if it's not approved, then the JMPD is called in for any type of enforcement for outdoor advertising.
And you've spoken to the Department of Development Planning?
I spoke to the unit of outdoor advertising, and they have confirmed that they haven't received any type of application.
Polani Fihla, the spokesperson for the JMPD.
Clements Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
Experience Beethoven's iconic piano concerto number 3, performed by multi-award-winning pianist Albert Mamriv with the Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra on Thursday, the 13th of November at the Linda Auditorium. The JPO Spring Symphony season continues until the 20th of November, featuring world-class soloists and conductors and a program including Mozart, Brahms, Rachmaninoff, and more. These concerts are not to be missed. Book early to avoid disappointment. Tickets available on Quicket.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actis-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
At Isuzu, we know every delivery, every kilometer, and every load is building something bigger. This truck month, set your business up for success with special deals across the Isuzu N and F-Series ranges. Don't get left behind. Speak to your Isuzu truck specialist or call 08600 Isuzu and secure your truck month deal today. Isuzu, with you for the long run. T's and C's apply.
For the first time on African soil, business leaders from across the globe will gather for the B20 Summit in Sandton from 18th to 20th November. On the agenda is inclusive growth and prosperity through global cooperation. Tomorrow, the Clement Maniatella Show will be in conversation with Nedbank to discuss all the insights, expectations, and predictions ahead of the summit. So tune in to 702 in conversation with Nedbank, proud sponsors of the B20 Summit. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. 702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Mabotja.
22 minutes after 1 o'clock, and we are talking about the role of churches of all kinds, including mosques, temples, houses of worship. Their role when people are struggling, in a time when people are struggling, and maybe share with us what you observe your church doing. After a woman in the US conducted a social experiment where she asked multiple churches to help with a can of baby formula. Not cans, not money, saying my child is starving. And then, let me add the extra note. She also made note of which of these churches are publicly and fully anti-abortion. So the same people who say we are pro-life, save that child's life, we don't believe in abortion are the same ones, right? The ones that say they care for life that did not care for that child's life. 011 883 0702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 and 702. Stelo in Brakpan. Hi.
How are you doing?
Good, thanks. And you, Stelo?
Great. Great show and a very relevant topic. I just want to speak perhaps for the Christian church, your charismatic, your Pentecostal, and so forth. One, especially the ones in the township, and I'm a former pastor of one, especially the ones in the townships, it must be known that what people see on TV does not really apply to all churches. Very many of these churches are themselves resource scarce. A lot of them in the townships have already need to adopt much of the consequences of the ills of our societies. Poor children, children without clothes, children child-headed homes. That's problem number one, because these churches are very fully aware of what their biblical role is to the community. I mean, the Bible says true religion is that we look after the orphans, look after the widows, and so on and so forth. And in many cases, these programs are already inward. So, for instance, the church I was part of, we used to collect old clothes for people who would collect them and then would start to seek out organizations that deal with those. But now, on our way to deliver these clothes, if we meet someone who is hungry, who's sitting somewhere and says, please give me food, we may not have the resource to provide that person food. The very people who are going to deliver these things are not themselves, full of fridges. Many of them are being looked after by the church. So perhaps in defense of the churches, obviously not all of them, but in defense of them, it's not to mean, for instance, that they themselves, have in avalanche, that they are as rich as perhaps some of the media houses are portraying them.
Can I just ask you something, Stelo? And let me tell you what my greatest concern is.
Yeah.
In that particular, let's assume the church didn't have the money, which is exactly what the pastor who wanted to use his own money said, is that they really have money to even maintain. They survive on donations. My concern was majority of that feedback was not what you are saying. So if somebody asks me for help and it's about a starving child and I'm not in a position to do so, do you think I would say, hey, sorry, can't help? Or I might pick up a phone to somebody I know who does have a baby. Why were they not offering to say, actually, there's a mom in our church. Let me see if she's got a can of formula for you. That is my biggest concern, is it's not about the money. It's about the support.
Yeah, I accept that. I'm sure that there are scenarios, as you have put them, that are terribly unfair. But you can also imagine in another case where in this church I already have mothers with children without food, that the church is putting together some resources. And some people here with children are themselves already donating. And if someone else comes and says, listen, my twins, let's just make that the class example, my twins don't have food, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to reach out to Rele, but Rele is already looking after the children of the widow.
And I hear you with that, Nestlelo. But again, if we come back to the question which you already answered about what is the role of the church? What is the role of the church? And some of these churches that she called, of which they're well over, I think, 100,000 churches in the US. But some of them are your mega churches. Mega churches meaning they have full-on stage productions for their nativity plays. It looks like a concert of somebody huge and famous. But thank you, Stelo, for your call. Busiso in Mayfield. Go ahead. Hi.
Hi, how are you, ma'am?
Good, thanks. And you?
It's a very interesting topic. The survey that was done sort of proves that not all churches are biblically sound. Not all of them will apply the principles that are in the Bible. But as for my take, I will really have to say that as people who believe in the Bible, like Christian churches, they are supposed to extend their hand to the community because they are part and parcel of the community. I mean, the real reason why we say we are Christ followers, we are Christ followers because we need to impact in the community and impact so effectively, not negatively. But at the same time, we also need to understand that there are people out there who want to sort of use what the church gives or what the church does. Say, for instance, I will tell you of a scenario which happened in my own area. There was a person who died in the community, and there was no money to bury that person. And people went around, knocking in the doors, and eventually they came into a church, and the church said, "We'll take care of everything." They buried that person, everything went smooth. Guess what? After 3 months, somebody came in again and knocked. Well, somebody has just died, we need some help, we saw you helping so and so. The church did the very same thing. After a year, we saw more than 3 people coming, claiming that their loved one have died. They need contribution from the church. So what I'm basically saying is that if a church is going to do that, they ought to follow certain principles, not to be taken advantage of.
Can I ask you something, Busiso? If I agree with the first statement you made, there's a pastor who said, myself and some pastors will read out of the same Bible, but we're definitely not praying to the same God. And I agree with you totally there. However, I understand what you're trying to say around the duty of care. But I would imagine that if you are a place of solace, you're not going to let 3 exceptions and bad apples ruin what your role is. Especially if people are coming there to tithe and put in their money. They're able to see, oh, this is what our church is doing for this. So as long as they're not cutting it off, like going the opposite direction and saying we're not helping anybody. But in my mind, is that not the reason why the 10% is going there and not to non-profits and NGOs?
Of course it is, but also bear in mind, not all the churches are collecting tithes. Some are just relying on the normal offering.
Yes.
So, like for instance, if you remember the COVID period.
Yes.
In my church during the COVID period, they were able to extend their hand to people who were really in need of food, of clothing, and all that.
Okay, and so I think. And listen, again, it's not all churches, Nesbusiso. So I thank you so much for sharing. It isn't all churches. Let me make that clear. But it was too many. It definitely was too many. 27%, if we were to call it a past the social experiment. What happened to the rest? I see your messages. I see your voice notes and calls. We'll chat when we come back. It's just after 1:30. Time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batoyi, says the country is not winning the fight against organized crime. Batoyi says better intelligence is needed to handle high-profile criminal cases. She is currently giving testimony before Parliament's ad hoc committee, which is investigating allegations of police corruption. The country's unemployment rate has dropped to 31.9% in the third quarter from 33.2% in the second quarter of the year. While this brings the number of employed people to 17.1 million, 8 million other people eligible to work still remain jobless. 6 out of the 10 occupational categories recorded employment gains in the quarter under review. And an alleged serial rapist has told the Pretoria High Court he offered one of his victims money for sex. Sipho Lucas Piri is accused of more than 100 sexual crimes which took place between 2018 and 2023. He faces a number of charges including rape, kidnapping, pointing of a firearm and forcing someone to witness a sexual act. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 2 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
On the N1 South after Allendale Road, there's still that earlier crash. The vehicles are still on the left shoulder. It is causing delays, so please drive carefully in the area. And on the N3 North at Modderfontein, there's a stationary truck that's in the left lane. With slippery roads in rainy Gauteng, so please allow for extra travelling time and maintain a safe following distance. And please keep on your headlights. Traffic lights faulty in 4 ways at Witkoppen and Cedar, Witkoppen and Newmarket in Randburg, and in Edenvale at Modderfontein and Van Riebeek, as well as Modderfontein and the N3. More Eyewitness News traffic at 2 p.m.
This There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
The Commission for Gender Equality calling on Parliament to review a 70-year-old law on witchcraft. There are people who, in engaging in practices of witchcraft, target children for rape and sexual abuse as a way to empower themselves. What kind of madness is that? What ancestors, what power will you summon that would demand that of you? I'm emotional about this.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Experience a unique musical journey as the Mzansi National Philharmonic Orchestra presents its national tour, Voices of Home, featuring legendary conductor Marine Alsop and homegrown global sensation Abel Selakwe. The program includes Selakwe's 4 Spirits Cello Concerto, paired with Rachmaninoff's Romantic Symphony No. 2. Concerts take place at the Linda Auditorium on Wednesday the 10th and Thursday the 11th of December. Book your tickets now at Quicket.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is streets ahead. Warrior Paints. Affordable, lasting luxury.
At Chamberlain's, there's something for everyone. From building supplies for the home renovators to garden essentials for the homemakers. From power tools for the DIY doers to painting supplies for the patio Picassos. We even have coffee for the slightly sleepy and snacks for the young ones. And for the ones who can never quite find what they're looking for, we have you covered too. With our promise to find and source whatever you need. Chamberlain's, famous for hardware since 1903.
In case you missed it, 702 was in conversation with Santam about Santam's partnership with the G20 taking place in Johannesburg.
We are participating in the Disaster Risk and Reduction Working Group, and through that we are able to share some learning, good practices, and what we've got from our flagship program, like Partnerships and Risk and Resilience. So we hope that the learnings that we are able to share with the G20 countries, we're able to be utilized, most importantly, to emphasize the role of partnerships between government and the private sector.
Santam is a proud sponsor of the G20 Summit. Santam, this is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer, and the controlling company for its group of companies.
Your voice.
Your life.
Your afternoon radio.
On 702 Afternoons.
With Relebogile Mabotja.
24 minutes to 2 o'clock, and we've been talking about the role of churches, mosques, temples, and places of worship in society today when we're living in a time where people are absolutely struggling. 011-883-0702 and the WhatsApp line 072-702-1702. Feel free to also do your own little social experiment as well and see if your church would help you. See if a church would help you. Lisa on my TikTok live says, I asked for help with food parcels. Not even money, food. They prayed for me and that was it. Mind you, I have cancer. They know I'm not working, but that's my story and it is sad. That is so, so sad. Very, very sad that you asked for food and you got prayers while being unemployed and dealing with a battle with cancer. Sure. Some of your voice notes are coming through on 072-702-1702.
Hi guys, Brett from Alberton. This is why I stopped going physically going to church. I felt it became a cash cow for the pastors. These pastors live in luxury, and the attendees that give them money live in poverty. And when they need money, the churches are not willing to help. I've experienced this with people I've known at church, and it left a very bad taste in my mouth. So, me as a rule, I stopped going to a physical church. I still do what I need to do, but I don't give money to the church. The churches aren't what they used to be. As I said, Brett from Alberton. Enjoy your day, guys. Ciao.
Hi, Relebogile. Yeah, with regards to this lady that has asked the churches for money, I take my faith really seriously, and I promise you, there are starving families that go to church, and the churches simply don't help. But when they ask for your tithes and all of that, they quickly to want all of that money. But I promise you, there are so many families that go to church. A lot of these churches prey on the people, which it's really sad. I think there was a study a while ago with there's only 4% of churches that are actually there to help the people. There are only 4% of them, so it's quite scary.
Hi, Lebza. Such an awesome topic. It's really, really sad. The role of the churches and the mosque and the temples to help people, to help them with food, help them when they are struggling. And I feel that they have other agendas.
All right, some of your WhatsApp messages, hi Relebogile, about the so-called experiment. I would say you'll always see or find what you set out to see or find, confirmation bias, and that's what this woman did. No organization or individual is just out there to give out anyone and everyone. It's impractical and impossible, says Farai. Well, Farai, the question I asked is, what is the role of the church then? And why is it that the mosques and the Buddhist temples ask no questions? Because then if that is the case where you say churches can't be helping anybody and everybody, do we need to then discuss if churches are a business? That 10% tithe is your income and then you need to be taxed? Just a question and a thought. Our church, Relebogile, requests non-perishable food items from members, then distributed. I've also benefited from this. Absolutely wonderful. And feel free to shout out your churches, folks. You don't have to keep them anonymous, especially if you're giving them love. In South Africa, the baby formula scam is well known. I doubt anyone here would give her baby formula. What is the baby formula scam? Maybe I'm missing something. What is the baby formula scam? I'm not aware of a baby formula scam. I might be completely out of the loop, so maybe you can help me out there. Relebogile, hi, my church always asks this question. If we were to close today, will people miss us? Only 10% will. Anonymous from a Methodist church. Good day. From my point of view, most churches are there to benefit its founder, which is the pastor, is what they say. Hi. It's Baba Gasomanga. I'm listening to you. I understand your topic is about churches' response to the vulnerable needs of people. Church or no church organizations need to be encouraged to create more jobs as a helping hand to the poor people. Any other responsible organizations or individuals, we must make it a norm to create more opportunities for the poorest. Lebo, hi there. I see their role as specialists in doing absolutely nothing. Kimbongeni Ntaka. I'm live streaming in Durban. Welcome. These institutions are there as comfort zones, no tangible roles, only to serve as a vehicle that puts people with common problems together to preach the message that you are not alone and it's not you. The higher will sort things for you. The believer is what that message says. And then another one says, OMG Relebogile. So they only help those who attend the church? You heard it. But I encourage you all to do the social experiment yourselves. More of the voice notes on 072 702 1702.
Hi, Relebogile. The role of the place of worship where I go to, they equip people, like for today. There's a course that's going to be running for the next 4 weeks. It's called entrepreneurship. Those that want to venture into business and those that are in business. There's a course that's going to be running. As well, last week they were hosting senior citizens with like a Christmas party kind of a thing. It's a lot that's happening there.
Relebogile and the 702 listeners. Afternoon. It's really sad that of all the places where you can get all sort of assistance, the church is the last place where you will get such assistance. We are in an era where in churches are actually the most profitable businesses that you will find.
Hi, Relebogile. So in as much as the church is collecting the 10% tithe or some sort of offering from the members, yes, I guess a little bit of, their duty is to help the community around. But as the previous caller has said, where do you draw the line? Because now the community can end up even taking advantage of the fact that, oh, you know what, when a person dies or when we need ABC, we can just go to the church and they will help us. So for me, it's like, where do you draw the line? Where do you say, okay, cool, we help you up until this level, but, there's a certain line that we cannot cross?
The answer to the question, where do you draw the line, should be in your Bible. That's where the answer is. Isn't there a saying that says, what would Jesus do? I'm very, very curious, because the examples of people scamming churches are few and far between. I'm very curious. Let me quickly look at your Facebook comments. Charles says church will never help a person. Buso says religion is an opium for the poor. No statement will wake the sheep up. Sonwabile says they were useless during COVID. They're becoming irrelevant as life goes on. Greg says cesspools of delusion, aiding manipulation of free thinkers in a general decay of ethics. Slave houses filled with Stockholm Syndrome victims. No unified respect of universal consciousness is objectively, verifiably promoted in these abusive traps. An 8.1 billion people population paradigm requires objective ethics beyond religious quackery, is what they say. Errol says druggies were arrested selling their wares from a church. Someone saw its multi-usefulness. I was not aware of that story. And even more, where one person says, this is Ravesh, says, they are houses of spiritual guidance. If you don't see the value in that, then maybe you are the problem. So is spiritual guidance all that it is? And I know we're not going to get all of the answers today, but especially now as we are approaching Christmas time, ask yourself that question. Do the experiment for yourself. What is your church doing, or your mosque or your temple, to help those in need? And what is their role in society today? Another person says in the Catholic Church, we collect non-perishable food items and distribute to needy families. In my parish, we have 11 families which we visit regularly and give food parcels to. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul is responsible for this. I'm not sure about baby formula because nobody donates it. I've never seen a single tin in the donations we've received. Thank you so much for all of your messages that have come through. And maybe this is the start of different kinds of conversations. But I refuse to believe that where a group of people are gathered, I refuse to believe where a group of people are gathered that they would not be able to come up with a plan for a can of baby formula. Or even to find a woman in the community who is breastfeeding to donate milk to a hungry, starving baby. I refuse. Absolutely refuse. But just keep in mind about the fact that people will credit crack dealers and gangsters for keeping them fed. Is that not scary? A lot for us to chew on.
Tip your way to glory in the Hollywood Bets Punters Challenge, the free-to-play horse racing game with daily cash cash giveaways, and massive jackpot prizes. Pick all the winners on the race card and you could win 100,000 Rand. Bet 50 Rand or more on your selections using the Bet Slip feature and you could walk away with 1 million Rand. Visit punterschallenge.hollywoodbets.net today and tip your way to the top. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008.
As leaders in renewable energy finance, Nedbank has a track record spanning over 100 years. From pioneering large-scale solar and wind farms to financing complex energy infrastructure in emerging markets, Nedbank offers clients deep sector expertise, combined with the ability to navigate the unique challenges of Africa's just energy transition. See money differently. Nedbank. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Classics on Turf is back, where golf and classical music meet in one unforgettable Johannesburg night. Join 702 at Killarney Country Club on Friday the 14th of October as Kukwano Masote, I think it's meant to be November, as Kukwano Masote leads a full orchestra bursting with energy, color and rhythm. Sharing the stage, Judith Puma brings her velvet voice and unmatched charm to a proudly South African musical celebration. Your ticket includes delicious canapes and welcome drinks with a rain-proof setup. The show goes on no matter the weather. Book now at quicket.co.za. Classics on Turf is proudly made possible by Telkom and brought to you in partnership with 702.
702.
Tech Feature.
In our tech feature for today, we are chatting at 11 minutes to 2 o'clock. Africa Tech Festival 2025, and we're joined by the Vice President of the festival, Mr. David Monahan. David, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on, Lebo. It's great to be here.
David, what is the Africa Tech Festival all about? David,
future for Africa.
Sorry, we lost you. So I was asking, what is the Africa Tech Festival all about?
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay. Yeah, well, the Africa Tech Festival is all about creating pathways for a digital future for Africa. So we look at a number of different things. One is the telecoms infrastructure that is required in Africa to power and connect more people to the internet, especially, and all the data services that go with it. And also look at the technology and the entrepreneurship in Africa, which is driving the next generation of services that, ultimately can transform lives across the continent.
So how did it all and where did it all begin?
So it all began 28 years ago. That was the year of the first event here in Cape Town. It was called AfricaCom in those days. And as you might have guessed from that, it concentrated really on telecoms. Over the years, in the last 10 years, we changed the name to Africa Tech Festival to really encompass the fact that, yes, telecoms and making sure that we connect as many people in Africa as possible is crucial. But there's also another side, now we see so much with artificial intelligence and the range of services that can add to people's lives and help to transform business. So now it's gone from being a purely telecoms event to an event which covers the whole of telecoms and technology. So you've got the digital infrastructure, the telecoms infrastructure, but also the services that run on that infrastructure as well.
So in terms then of if there is a theme for the year, what would you say is really the biggest topic of conversation for this year?
Well, I think, if I may, there are probably two. One, as I've said, is really about the challenge is always to think about how can we connect more people? How can we give more people access to telecoms networks and especially the internet? And that's about its rollout of infrastructure, but it's also about affordability and affordability of handsets especially. And then the second one, which is probably the complete other end of the spectrum, is how can we create infrastructure so that Africa can benefit from the AI boom, which is obviously changing business, and consumer services all across the world. That needs massive investment in infrastructure, Cassava Technologies were here this morning. Their founder and chairman was speaking, made some really exciting announcements about investments in data centers in Africa and their partnership with Google. So those, as I say, connecting more people, affordability is one of the key priorities. And then the other is how can we create an infrastructure which enables Africa to take part in the AI boom and the fourth industrial revolution.
What would you say is a unique offering of us as Africans to the world when it comes to tech?
Well, I think it's probably a creativity in terms of the different applications and the different services that you can provide. And I think that one of those things is that, tech has to be a little bit local. Yes, of course, there are international telecoms infrastructures and there are international aspects of tech, but it also has to make sense to people's lives. It has to be local. So how can LLMs, things like ChatGPT, how can they be trained on African content so that when they're used in this continent, they give results which are specifically interesting and relevant to people here in Africa? And that's one example. As I said, the other thing is how there's a great entrepreneurial spirit here in Africa. There's an energy and dynamism that you can see at the event. And I think bringing that through and enabling people to express that, giving the people the investment and the opportunity to express that and to create applications which can really make a difference to people's lives here in Africa.
What you said about the training of AI, I'm curious as to what the conversation is around, the creative sector. And if, for example, AI is being trained on Amapiano, is there a conversation around licensing and possibly royalties so that, artists of all kinds can still remain doing their craft?
Yes, I think that's something which is a global issue. I'm sure you're aware of some of the court cases that have taken place that relate to that. And I think what I see is that increasingly everyone knows that to realize the full benefits of large language models, people have to work together. Ultimately, for large language models to work, they require content. For content to be created, you require an incentive, and those people need to be paid and compensated fairly. So I think everyone in the supply chain recognizes that everyone has to get a fair reward for the work they've put in and the content that they've created.
Are there, conversations around the new types of employment and jobs that will come out of the tech industry over the next couple of years or even decades, especially considering that there are some jobs that are going to become obsolete?
Yes, that's a good question, and obviously, again, something which you hear a lot about AI is coming for your job. I don't necessarily see it that way, and I think the belief is that AI might come and take away some of the tasks that you do, but actually, what it does is it takes away time spent on mundane tasks which can be easily automated and gives people more time to do higher value things. I think there's also the other aspect of it that actually investment in telecoms infrastructure, creates a lot of jobs in itself, where Cassava talks about building new data centers in Africa. Those are huge structures, lots of investment, lots of jobs are created in the construction and the operation of those centers. So while AI may take out some of the tasks, which some people currently do, I don't think it necessarily takes their jobs. And as I said, the investment in infrastructure will actually create lots of jobs.
When and where is it taking place, and are listeners able to participate?
Yes, well, it's the first day is today. It's running on tomorrow and on Thursday, so for 2 days from now. It's taking place at the CTICC in Cape Town. So yes, if any of your listeners are in the tech sector and want to come along, they're very welcome.
And final words from you, David?
Well, thank you very much for having me on, Lebo. It's great to be here in Cape Town. It's really exciting. You can feel the energy of the show as people really work together to create a better digital future for Africa.
Thank you so much for coming to chat to us, David. For those of you that are interested, africatechfestival.com, africatechfestival.com, happening at the Cape Town ICC. If you want to attend, maybe you're listening from Cape Town or are willing to make your way out, it sounds like it's going to be a really good one.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
The Basic Education Department says it will start implementing language-specific strategies to address the reading crisis in grade 1 to 3 learners nationwide. Minister Sivue Kwahube says the move is prompted by a study which has revealed that 15% of learners cannot read a single word by the end of grade 3. She revealed the information at the launch of the Funda Uphumelele National Survey, which gives a report of early grade reading outcomes across all official languages in the first 3 grades.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
I'm Samela Kilboy, an actress and mom to 3 lovely kids. I worry about how sugar can make them sick. Drinking sugary drinks could lead to diabetes, heart disease, and obesity as they get older. Diabetes is one of the top causes of death in South Africa. I'm joining the fight to demand government puts our health ahead of greedy industry profits. Government must act now. Increase the health promotion levy on sugary drinks. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
Summer is about rewarding yourself with oceanic views, sizzling braais, and so much more. Earn your share of 120 million rand in real cashback, depending on your rewards tier, when you pay with your Absa Visa card. Plus, enter the Absa Swiper competition and stand a chance to win 1 of 10 cars. This summer could be the best you've had in years. Your story matters. Absa, T's and C's apply. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider.
In the next hour of the show, our series edition on the surrogacy journey in South Africa. It's going to be episode 2. We're going to talk about surrogacy laws in SA. Then our car feature, we're going to be talking about South Africa's first accredited qualification for EV repair. Make sure you tune in. It's 2 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. We begin with news just in. The city of Ekurhuleni has placed its Deputy Metro Police Chief, Julius Mkhwanazi, on suspension effective today. Mkhwanazi has been suspended following links to alleged criminal mastermind Vusimuzi Matlala. Mkhwanazi has been implicated at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, with claims emerging that he aided Matlala's infiltration of the EMPD. Mkhwanazi is accused of entering into fraudulent memorandum of understandings with Matlala Security Company. The city says Mkhwanazi's suspension was as a result of an internal probe into allegations of wrongdoing. To Parliament now, where National Director of Public Prosecution Shamila Patoyi says the country is not winning the fight against organised crime. Patoyi says better intelligence is needed to handle high-profile criminal cases. She's giving testimony before Parliament's ad hoc committee, which is investigating allegations of police corruption. The corruption allegations stem from a press conference earlier this year by KZN top cop, who said that the justice system has been infiltrated by criminals. Patoyi, who retires in January, says her appointment was mainly to turn around and rebuild the NPA. She says work still needs to be done to deal with organised crime.
The only way of getting to organised criminals is to ensure that we have solid, good intelligence. And the other way is you have to follow the money. We have to make sure that we have capacities in government to be able to do effective, quick financial investigations.
To this now, the country's unemployment rate has dropped to 31.9% in the third quarter from 33.2% in the second quarter. While this brings the number of employed people to 17.1 million, 8 million other people eligible to work still remain jobless. 6 out of the 10 occupational categories recorded employment gains in the quarter under review. Statistician General Rozenga Maluleke released the latest data today.
Out of the 17.1 million who are employed, we had about 747,000 who belong to a category of time-related underemployment. These are people who are saying that we are working, but we think we are not fully utilized enough in terms of the time that we are spending.
To the courts now, an alleged serial rapist has told the Pretoria High Court he offered one of his victims money for sex. Sipho Lucas Phiri is testifying at the Pretoria High Court, which is sitting in Benoni today. He is accused of more than 100 sexual crimes which allegedly took place between 2018 and 2023. He faces charges including rape, kidnapping, pointing a firearm and forcing someone to witness a sexual act. Relebogile Mabotja has more.
Sipho Lucas Phiri is testifying about an incident involving one of the 37 women who claimed they were sexually assaulted by him. He says he met the victim in Patfontein near a police station where she was hitchhiking for a lift to work. Speaking through an interpreter, Phiri told the court that she complained that she is underpaid and wanted to earn more money. At the time, he was working as a security guard at Prasa. Despite this, he admits that he lied to her, saying he is a supervisor at a mine and could offer her better employment. He added that he offered her 500 rand for the sexual act in exchange for a job, alleging that she consented. Phiri admitted that he did not pay her, saying he had a work emergency, then left her at her workplace. Relebogile Mabotja, Eyewitness News, Benoni.
And Sri Lanka, the Maldives and Nepal have offered condolences to India following a deadly blast. 8 people were killed last night after a car exploded near the Red Fort landmark in Delhi. Delhi's police commissioner says the blast happened when a slow-moving vehicle stopped at a red light before it exploded. There is no official confirmation yet on what caused the blast, but India's main opposition Congress party has urged the government to clarify whether it was an attack or something else. Gold is trading at $4,143.28 an ounce. The rand is at 17.16 to the dollar, 22.52 to the pound, 19.84 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $64.05 a barrel.
On the M1 South, there's a crash at Smith Street that's causing delays from Empire Street. And on the N1 South after Allendale, there's still that earlier crash. The vehicle's on the left shoulder, but it is still slowing down traffic.
It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with scattered showers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 22 and 24 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The city of Ekurhuleni has placed its Deputy Metro Police Chief, Julius Mkhwanazi, on suspension effective today.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Relebogile Mabotja
Live, streaming countrywide
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
6 minutes after 2 o'clock, the second and final hour, 7:02 afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja, and we're going to be jumping into episode 2 of our series on the surrogacy journey in South Africa. Don't worry if you missed the first one, primemediaplus.com, or download the app and you are able to catch up on understanding surrogacy in South Africa. And today we're talking about surrogacy laws, and you must jump in for this conversation and get your questions in early. Then we'll have our car feature where we're talking about South Africa's first accredited qualification for EV repair. Get in touch with us, 011 883 0702, SMS us 31702, tweet at Relebogile M, at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 afternoons, and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702.
Series edition.
Series edition time for the month of November. we are doing a series on surrogacy, the surrogacy journey in South Africa. Part 1 is available for all of you to catch up on. Today, we are talking about South Africa's surrogacy laws. We're joined by Robin Friedman, who is a South African attorney specializing in surrogacy and fertility law, and also is the founder of Robin Friedman Attorneys. Get in touch with us, 011 883 0702, and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Robin, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Can you take us back to when surrogacy was not yet officially recognized in South Africa and when it came into law?
Yes, sure. So there are two time frames. It's everything prior to the 1st of April 2010 was when surrogacy was unlegislated in this country. So during that period, parents and surrogate mothers were coming together and entering into surrogacy agreements where potentially surrogate mothers were getting paid. In other words, it was commercially viable for people to volunteer their assistance as a surrogate mother. But there were very few surrogacies happening in those days, given the fact that there was legal uncertainty as to the parentage of the children. Because prior to the 1st of April 2010, once the baby was born through surrogacy, the surrogate mother could still claim parental rights and responsibilities to the child as the mother of the baby.
Wow.
And this left parents, with a great deal of uncertainty, and it could potentially be a nerve-wracking process because one would have to wait 2 months after the baby was born in order to officially adopt the baby. So that put a lot of people off with the process of surrogacy. And then on the 1st of April 2010, surrogacy became legislated in this country. And quite honestly, we have probably worldwide the best legal system. I think the USA is comparable to ours, leaving the rest of the world lagging behind us. So on the 1st of April 2010, the Children's Act came into being with Chapter 19 legislating surrogacy in South Africa, and that created a lot of legal certainty. So what we now do is we bring pre-conception agreements to the High Courts of South Africa. In other words, before your baby is even conceived, before the fertility specialists are permitted to put any embryos back into the uterus of a surrogate mother, we have to approach the High Court of South Africa to obtain an order which then declares the parents to be the mother and the father of this child, to the exclusion of the surrogate mother and to the exclusion of the outside world. And it confirms in the instance of a single father that he will be the only father of their child, and with same-sex parents that they will be registered as the single father, as the married fathers on the birth certificate of the baby. So no longer do we have an adoption process which takes place.
When did it come into play, the law specifically ensuring that the egg of the surrogate is not used to avoid claim for, maternity, and I know custody is not the right word, but to claim their child because it is biologically theirs?
Okay, so let me explain this properly. I think there's a bit of misunderstanding with the Children's Act. So there are two scenarios with surrogacy that is perfectly legal in South Africa. You can either proceed on the basis of what we call just a general surrogacy, where we are using the surrogate mother to be a carrier of the child, or an incubator in simple terms, of the baby. And this is in the instance where either the intended mother will use her own eggs, or if she doesn't produce any more eggs, she will use donor eggs and her husband's sperm. In the case of same-sex parents, they would then obtain an anonymous or a known egg donor, and they will fertilize with either of their genetic material and implant the resulting embryos into the uterus of the surrogate. So that's a general surrogacy, and that's the way most of us understand surrogacy in this country. However, traditional surrogacy is also legal in South Africa. But traditional surrogacy is the case where your surrogate mother will then use her own eggs in an arrangement, and the intended father's sperm or his gametes will then be euthanized to fertilize her eggs. So in this instance, we have the scenario which takes us back to the pre-1 April 2010 disposition, where we had the adoption process happening. To a certain degree, because in a traditional surrogacy arrangement these days where the surrogate mother uses her own eggs, she's still at any point in time during the surrogacy process and during the pregnancy and for 2 months thereafter,
Robin,
she can still notify
we just
the
lost
court
you for a second. Could you just repeat the last
she's
line?
going to claim full rights and responsibilities.
Sorry, Robin, we just lost you very briefly.
Sorry about
the
that.
network was not great. If you could just repeat the previous line.
So what I'm saying, in the traditional surrogacy arrangement, the surrogate mother can, at any point during the pregnancy, notify the court that she's going to claim full rights and responsibilities towards this child as the mother of this baby. And she's got a 2-month period after the birth within which to claim these rights, similar to the adoption process.
Okay, so if then a person is, a couple is going to decide that we need a surrogate, and maybe when we come back from the break, you can truly break it down for us, is the duration of this legal process, the fact that one has to go to court. I mean, I'm assuming that there might be some underground things that are happening, but for us to understand what the cost implications are and the duration is of this process, we can jump into that as soon as we come back. 011 883 0702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 Rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS LEGAL to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
There's summer, and there's that extra summer with Vodacom's free gifts on summer deals. Like the new Honor X7D 256 gig on a 1 gig Red Core plan for just $299 per month over 36 months. And get a free Honor Watch 2i gift worth $999. Plus 5 gigs YouTube data for 3 months and free 2 months YouTube Premium. Now that's extra. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
This Thursday, the Clement Manyathela Show will be live from the 2nd Annual National Construction Summit, hosted by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and the Construction Industry Development Board. If you work in construction or are simply interested in finding out how the government is planning to solve issues affecting South African infrastructure, make sure you don't miss it. The Clement Manyathela Show live from the 2nd Annual National Construction Summit this Thursday on 702.
Part of the 702 family.
I'm the Woho from Haramkua, so I used to listen to 702 when I was still a little kid in Haramkua, where the studios used to be. So we used to ride up the mountain to go have a look at the studios from outside. Now 40 years later, I get to see the studios inside in Johannesburg.
Welcome to our 702 family. Let's walk the talk.
702
Series Edition.
17 minutes after 2 o'clock, we continue with our series edition on the surrogacy journey in South Africa. Today's episode 2, Understanding South Africa's Surrogacy Laws, 011 883 0702 in the WhatsApp line, 072 702 1702, as we chat to Robin Friedman, South African attorney specializing in surrogacy and fertility law in SA. Robin, so what does the process look like? Can you talk us through it? Should a couple be going to their doctor first or going to their lawyer first?
Sure, I'll do that for them. So the first thing I suggest is to come to somebody like me, a person who offers a similar service, because often people are left with no direction. So what we do in our practice is we assist and help and guide and support parents navigating the surrogacy journey together, and will literally hold their hands through the entire process. So I would suggest that they contact someone like me or anybody else out there specializing in surrogacy. And the first step is to have a consultation so that we can fully inform them about all aspects of surrogacy. That will involve not only the legal aspects of surrogacy, but it will involve the egg donor process if they require an egg donor, or if they need a sperm donor, likewise. We will then inform them of where to start and how things get done in a certain procedural pattern which doesn't cost them money, because we're trying to avoid wasted costs for all parents, given that this process can be quite expensive. So the first step after the consultation would then be for the intended mother. I'm going to use that example given that it's potentially the easiest example. If the intended mother has fertility issues, she would then need confirmation from her fertility clinic that her condition is what we call in law both permanent and irreversible. So intended mothers cannot do surrogacy like they do in Hollywood, just for the sake of not gaining weight and not wanting to damage their bodies or their good figures. So we need the buy-in of the fertility clinic, who can categorically state that this woman in fact has a medical condition. And we need that buy-in first. In the case of same-sex men, we don't need anything. It's a lot easier for them. And once we have the go-ahead from the clinic that the intended mother is in fact infertile, we will then start the search for a surrogate mother. Now, it's very difficult to find surrogate mothers in South Africa, given that they get very little out of it. Surrogacy in South Africa operates by way of altruism. In other words, you do it out of the goodness of your heart as a charitable act to help parents in need. I will go through what the surrogate mother will in fact get shortly. And once the surrogate mother is found, then the intended parents will then take the surrogate mother to their fertility specialist, who will then do a ultrasound scan on her uterus just to make sure that her uterus is absolutely perfect and that there's no scar tissue or anything which remains over from her previous pregnancies. And the doctors will then authorize.
Just to triple check, at this stage in the process, the surrogate that has been selected, do they have to have had children of their own or not to qualify?
Absolutely. They
Okay,
absolutely
perfect.
have to have a living child of their own.
Okay, perfect.
So just on that point, there are more legal requirements for a surrogate. We cannot utilize the assistant of a surrogate who is absolutely destitute. She's got to come from comfortable living circumstances, be financially well resourced, have a very good support structure at home, a husband or a partner potentially, if she has him, that he's also very supportive of the process.
What is the
So
reason, if I
once-
may ask, that is the case?
Really, it's because we cannot exploit the poor. It's not about taking advantage of the poor people who are destitute and have no other means of making an income in this country. And even though they don't get much out of it, there is a small allowance which could potentially make a difference to their lives.
I got you.
Also, if you understand, if you have a surrogate living in destitute circumstances, it's not healthy for the growth of the baby. We need to make sure that she has food, that she has running water, electricity, comfortable lifestyle, that she has a stress-free lifestyle for the growth of this and development of the baby.
Okay, so what then happens in the process after the doctor has checked that, okay, great, she looks perfectly fine to be able to carry, we are happy?
After that, we then refer her on to a psychologist. And it's not just any psychologist. These are psychologists that do forensic court reports. In other words, they dig quite deeply into the surrogate mother's background, just to make sure that she doesn't suffer from any psychiatric or other reasons to disqualify her as a suitable candidate for surrogacy. We will also do police clearance checks on her and her partner, once again, just to make sure there's no offences, particularly those relating to violent acts or sexual offences pertaining to children. And by the same token, the intended parents must also undergo a psychological social evaluation, just to make sure they are also suitable and proper parents to accept the parenthood of this child. They're going to be good to the child. They have the financial and emotional means to be proper caregivers to this child. And also, once again, that they are not trafficking children or don't have a history of child trafficking or violent offences in this country. And once that's done, the legal process will start, and then that's where my job becomes busier. I will then draft the surrogate motherhood agreement and lengthy affidavits for the High Court. Everybody will sign, and we then submit to the High Court, and the case then gets argued before the judge. And the judge will then hopefully on the day grant us the High Court order, which is the most valuable part of this process. The High Court order does three things. Firstly, it's going to declare the parents to be the parents of the child, as I spoke about earlier, to the exclusion of the surrogate mother. So it's absolutely categorically declared in law. It's as if the intended mother gave birth to the baby herself. The surrogate mother's name does not feature anywhere on the birth certificate, and the parents will literally take their baby the minute the baby's born, and they will be discharged from the hospital with their baby. And then the second thing that High Court order will do, it will then authorize the fertility clinic to start making embryos, or if there are already embryos on ice, they can defrost those embryos, and they can then transfer those embryos into the uterus of the surrogate mother. Nothing may be done legally before that. So no embryo transfer into the uterus of the surrogate without that High Court order.
Okay, and I think
then the parents...
I think that kind of gives the gist of it. I just want to quickly give listeners an opportunity for their questions. One is reads as follows, which says, Lebo, should the mother, as in the surrogate, and I need to correct you already, so we never refer to the surrogate as the mother. She's the surrogate as in the one carrying. Should the surrogate determine that she wants to retain the child, would the father be liable for maintenance? And what is the process for men that want to be single fathers, or are they discriminated against? That's coming through from one of our listeners.
So I've done many single father applications. There are many single dads who just haven't met the life partner with whom they'd want to co-parent a child with. And instead of waiting indefinitely, they embark on the surrogacy process as single dads without a problem. I won't have an issue, and they're definitely not discriminated against. So that's definitely not an issue whatsoever, and no discrimination. Secondly, as I've stated throughout this talk, the surrogate mother can never claim rights and responsibilities to this child. She will never be the mother-in-law unless she has contributed her own genetic material to the process. And in that instance, it's a very complex question to answer, quite honestly, because in a case where she has contributed her own genetic material, then the intended father may in that case be liable for maintaining the child if he too would have parental rights. But it's not always the case. It depends on whether the surrogate mother is married herself. In that case, then it's very difficult and tricky when it comes to maintenance.
There's another question. Hi there, Relebogile. I'm very familiar with Robin, a great lady and attorney. not my real name. I'm a potential surrogate mother, and all this is so new to me. But if I'm a good candidate after all the health assessment and all, it would be great to help a deserving couple in need of having a baby. Thank you so much for that message. And we've got a voice note on 0727021702.
Hi, Relebogile. Thank you for this awesome segment. I'm kind of wondering from the surrogate point of view. So I get what's in it for a mom who can't conceive or a dad who's unable, who needs a womb. What exactly is in it for someone to be a surrogate? So if I want to be a surrogate to somebody, do I just want to help a couple achieve their joy? Like, what is in it for me as a surrogate, putting my body on the line? I understand that you cannot commercially use surrogacy to gain money. So just in the back of my mind, why would anybody want to be a surrogate?
Thank you so much for that question. And before I let Robin answer, the one lady I interviewed who was a surrogate for a couple, she really said she felt it as part of her life purpose to help a struggling couple. She had done it before and said she would do it again. She was married, had her own child. The husband was very much a part of the process in supporting her through the pregnancy. And she had a great couple in the sense that they gave her the space. It's not like they're there trying to monitor everything you're eating and all those things. And she did not make money off of it, but they cover the expenses. Robin, from your side?
Absolutely. So there are some angels in this world, quite honestly. I could really write a book on this subject. I've dealt with so many surrogates throughout the years, and on the whole, these are genuinely charitable, kind, caring women who would, in layman's terms, take the clothes off their back to help the person next to them suffering. They are often egg donors. In other words, they're donating their eggs, and they see the beauty in assisting people become parents, and they want to sometimes take it to the next level and actually carry the baby. These are women who absolutely love being pregnant, believe it or not. None of us get it, but some women really do this well and enjoy the feeling of being pregnant. And they want to do it again, but they don't want to have another child of their own. And often these surrogates have vicariously experienced infertility via an aunt, a family member, a best friend, and they've walked that journey of suffering with them, and they're now at a point in time when they realize, wow, I still have my womb, it's going to waste, let me try and help this couple. Most of my surrogates do charitable work. They're blood donors, they're organ donors, they're working in various charitable organizations, so it's part of their personality profile.
Have you ever had clients who came and it's one of those, like, my sister would like to be my surrogate or my mom would like to carry for me? I mean, there was that big famous story of the grandmother who delivered her own grandchild because her daughter had fertility issues.
Absolutely, all the time. So less so with mothers doing it for their daughters, given the age differences.
Yes.
But if we have a young enough, absolutely, that still happens, but rarely. We often have sisters doing it for one another, which works beautifully. I'm not too fond of sister-in-laws. I've seen too many fallouts in relationships happening because
Sisters-in-law.
the one sister-in-law is getting fat and hormonal and unhappy, and the other one looks as glamorous as anything, and there's a sense of injustice happening. But there's often nieces helping their aunts do this, and that really works as well. So yes, it's quite a common thing to happen. Also, commonly, friends help one another. I've had many childhood, lifelong friends helping one another. It's also a beautiful surrogacy story.
Oh man, I so appreciate you sharing these positive stories, and it might feel like, oh, this is so crazy, but it really does happen. I definitely would help my sister-in-law, and I know she would do the same for me. I doubt they'll be falling out. We've agreed that if anything happens, we're dumping my brother, and her and I will remain. But thank you so much, Robin, just for sharing all this information. The series is going to be continuing, primemediaplus.com. 2:31, time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. The city of Ekurhuleni has placed its Deputy Metro Police Chief, Julius Mkhwanazi, on suspension effective today. Mkhwanazi has been suspended following links to alleged criminal mastermind Vusimuzi Matlala. Mkhwanazi has been implicated at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry with claims emerging that he aided Matlala's infiltration of the EMPD. At the same time, retired EMPD Deputy Commissioner Rivos Spies says he filed for early retirement in January because the city was on a clear path of destruction. Spies concluded his testimony before the Madlanga Commission this afternoon. During his time in the hot seat, he levelled serious allegations against suspended EMPD head Julius Mkhwanazi, as well as former Ekurhuleni city manager Imogen Mashazi. And the Tundimande brothers, who have links to the murder of rapper Keenan Forbes and businessman Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane, have officially been charged. This after they were extradited from Eswatini, landing at the King Shaka International Airport this morning. They face 20 criminal charges, including murder, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, as well as firearm-related charges. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 3 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
On the M1 South, there's still that earlier accident scene. That's at Smith Street, so you can expect delays from Empire Road. And there's a crash on the R21 North after Benoni Ramp. The right lane's closed, and there's delays approaching that crash. And on the N1 South, the earlier crash after Annandale, the vehicles are still on the left shoulder, so please drive carefully. In Tshwane, traffic lights faulty in Centurion at the N14 Angine Avenue, as well as the N1 and Old Joburg Road, and in Pretoria, CBD at Bosman and Versaghi. More Eyewitness News traffic at 3 p.m.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Smart Steve from Momentum, hello.
How's it, But? It's Jason here, your favorite gymfluencer.
Jason, still lifting more than your selfie stick?
Always, But. Gotta stay shredded, eh? But I'm worried about one thing. What if a major illness hits? Who's got my back?
Relax, Jason. Momentum's critical illness cover is your spotter. It offers the most comprehensive cover in the market.
Buddy, I'm signing up faster than I could do 10 reps. But I'm worried about something else, eh?
Let me guess. How many protein shakes it takes before you turn into the incredible bulk?
No, man. Will anyone notice if I skip a leg day?
Chat to your financial advisor about Momentum's critical illness cover. Momentum, protecting your journey to success. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
KwaZulu-Natal has it all, believe it. The Zulu Kingdom is home to unforgettable adventures and experiences that will stay with you forever. Why not invite Abundase and whale watch along our wild coast, or turtle track in the heart of St. Lucia? Take a tour of our historic battlefields. Then rise above the beautiful Midlands meander in a hot air balloon trip made for two. Unforgettable happens here. Zwagala.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Shamil Jusub is the CEO at the Vodacom Group. Shamil, the Makate case, you're not going to tell me how much, are you?
No.
Well, I'm glad we got that out the way.
Effectively, it's in the numbers, it's recorded, it's there. Of course, you can see lots of speculation on what the number is, but, I think from our side, we're just happy to have closed the issue and to move on. And I think so are investors.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA CIB, named Best Cash Management Services in Africa at the 2025 EMEA Finance Treasury Services Awards.
702.
The car feature.
24 minutes to 3 o'clock, time for our car feature. And get in touch with us, 011 8830702 in the WhatsApp line 072 702 and 702. We are joined as we chat about South Africa's first accredited qualification for EV repair by Louis van Heystien, who is the National Training Director at Retail Motor Industry Organization, or shortened as RMI. Get in touch with us, 011 8830702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Louis, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good in yourself, Lebu, and thank you very much for having myself and my colleague Boitumelo Mpanya. I'm the training director at the RMI, and Boyce is our training manager.
Okay, great to meet you both. Louis, chat to us about normal vehicle repairs that we need to be aware of as lay South Africans, so that we can also just get an understanding of the intricacies that go into the training of vehicle repairs before we jump into EV?
100%. Lebo, thank you very much. So vehicles do have life and limb components, critical and safety vehicles. And it's always important for us as motorists to realize that keeping our vehicles well maintained and making sure that they're well looked after, we can minimize and mitigate fatal road accidents. So maintenance and repair of vehicles very important. And we do have apprenticeships within our aftermarket sector, Lebo, that actually help to train apprentices either through public TVET colleges or through private providers.
What really goes into it, the training, and maybe we can even take it a step backwards to ask, what are the requirements for you to go into training?
Yeah, Lebo, so in terms of a new occupational certificates in the country, you can actually enter an apprentice qualification on the occupational certificates, of which the QCTO is the custodian of, with a qualification as low as a grade 9. Obviously, in automotive, motor mechanic and diesel mechanic and so forth, a fair demand or a fair level of understanding of mathematics and so forth, obviously important. So, and a third of the curriculum, Lebo, in motor mechanic and diesel is nowadays vehicle diagnostics. So the ability to work on those diagnostic instruments and scanning tools important. So you will find that some of the vehicle dealerships, by way of example, they say minimum requirement is a grade 12. But you can actually go, if you look at the curriculum requirements, and the entry level is a grade 9. Obviously, you will just need to push a little bit to also learn those, those specific components.
Are there preferences in terms of subjects like maybe, let's say, maths or science that one looks at when they are selecting those that sort of can qualify to go into training?
It is a preference that you do have a fair amount of mathematics and also some science. But Lebo, the South African skill system have got a very strong backbone, and our requirements are very accommodating to really anyone that's got a grade 9 and up, to go. Obviously, you will need to put a little bit of more shoulder to the wheel. A guy that has got a grade 12 obviously also needs to push hard, but the guy that's got a grade 9, perhaps just push a little bit harder. But anything is possible. We see it at some of the TVET colleges where guys are really, really deprived. They come from backgrounds where you think, listen, how on earth is this guy going to make it?
Yeah.
And then we've got good successes, excellent successes, with employers being very proud of them.
What are some of the things that they learn from a theory perspective before they actually start to get their hands on a car?
So it's interesting, Lebo, and thanks for asking that question. So in terms of the occupational certificates, that is now the order of the day. South Africa has transitioned from legacy to occupational. In the legacy dispensation, Masita was the custodian with delivery models like curriculum-based modular training, and now with a Quality Council for Trades and Occupations being the custodian, the curriculum, Lebo, consists of 3 components. So there's a knowledge, there's a simulated practical, and a workplace. So, and that all gets integrated in what is known as work-integrated learning, Lebo. So what is actually nice and what works very nice, that we've seen with some of the colleges like your College of Cape Town and your Port Elizabeth TVET College that were part of the DHET Centre of Specialisation program, they actually managed to integrate the knowledge that the learners learn in class or the apprentices with a simulated practical in the workshop. And then what happens quite nicely is they rotate from the college to the workplace, and there at the workplace, what we call work integrated learning takes place. So it's a fully integrated system that actually works very well if you've got a passionate facilitators or TVET lecturers, and we've got some good examples of that as well. And then obviously the support staff at the campus also supports the TVET learners very well in terms of, anything, logistics and travel arrangements and whatever comes across, the young people's way in order to get their qualifications.
Do you think that it helps for a young person to have, a big interest in cars? Does that kind of make the process easier for them?
It helps to have a big interest and a passion in cars. But I also want to mention to you and the listeners, Lebu, that we've seen ladies doing exceptionally well in trades like vehicle spray painting, because ladies and women see a color better than men. So
I didn't even know men see color. You just taught me something new. I didn't know men see color.
Lebu, it's interesting that you mentioned that. So colors, if you look at vehicles in a vehicle park, all of them to the normal eye, me and you, seem to be blue or white or green or whatever. But if you get these type of eyes that can see into a color, a white is not really a white. There's a little bit of green or blue or yellow or whatever in it. And that,
Do they refer to them as undertones?
That's correct.
You know why?
Yes.
Because we do makeup.
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
like knowing and understanding when you look at someone's face if they got warm undertones or yellow undertones or so. I get you. I get you totally.
Yeah, and the spray painting and mixing the colors, Lebu, and so forth. So it's really, really, opportunities are there for men and women. Obviously, we want to attract more ladies to the industry. It's being perceived as a male-dominated industry, but we've got some brilliant examples of ladies that have completed their trade tests, getting employed at employers, at vehicle dealerships, and doing the same, and even better than their male counterparts.
All right, we're going to take a break. All of your questions, 011 883 0702 in the WhatsApp line, 072 702 1702. Why wait? Sell your ride now and enjoy instant payment with a seamless experience. We Buy Cars isn't playing when it comes to buying cars. It's faster and easier than you think. Curious about what they'll offer? Visit webuycars.co.za today. Looking for your next ride? Explore a massive range of cars, bikes, boats, bakkies, and more online or in store. We Buy Cars, the best way.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actis-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
This Thursday marks the first day of the second annual National Construction Summit hosted by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and the Construction Industry Development Board. The Clement Manyatela Show on 702 will be live from the summit, sharing updates and more intel throughout the show. If you work in construction or are simply interested in finding out how the government is planning to solve issues affecting South African infrastructure, then don't miss it. The Clement Manyatela Show, live from the second annual National Construction Summit this Thursday on 702.
702.
The car feature.
14 minutes to 3 o'clock rather, and we continue with our car feature today, chatting about South Africa's first accredited qualification for EV repair. We're joined by Louis van Heystien, who is the National Training Director at Retail Motor Industry Organization, RMI. And we take your calls on 011 883 0702 in the WhatsApp line, 072 702 1702, especially if you have a young person who is looking to get into training this conversation is for you. Louis, when did you actually start seeing that South Africa is picking up enough on electric vehicles that we need to start developing training? I mean, we're not fully there yet because of load shedding and so many things. The vehicles are still quite expensive. But in terms of that, when did you start saying, hey, we actually need to get our skin in the game here?
Lebo, thanks for that question. Approximately 5 years ago, we started looking at the trends in terms of new energy vehicle sales. And you will recall at that time we had the Toyota Prius that was sort of one of the first hybrid vehicles. Since then, what also made a big impact and we think helped the process along is our President Ramaphosa announced twice in his State of the Nation address over some time, new energy vehicles, electric vehicles. And we've obviously have got a white paper on EV in the country as well. So, yes, as we've seen a growth in new energy vehicles, in particular electric, a traditional hybrid vehicle, the sales are really good last year in comparison with a number of years ago. And the full electric is also starting to gain a lot more traction. You are right in terms of affordability, but we've also now seen brands like a BYD, launching the BYD Surf for 339,000 and another one for 389. So yes, I think we're going to see a lot of competition in this market, and that created the need for this qualification.
Boitumelo, as a trainer from your side, what are some of the things that you observe when young people come in to start to experience? Do you think a lot of them are quite surprised with what goes into it? Because I would imagine that many men already think that they can lift the hood of a car and figure out the problem. But some of them, you're like, why are you even opening the hood? Because this car's very techie and, the only thing you can see is the hole to pour water in.
Yeah, Relebogile, that's a good question because what you've seen is that unlike your traditional cars, with electric cars, there's minimum stuff that you can check on the car. Like even if you were to take it to a service, there's no much that you can do there. It's more like 3 things that you have to check, more on your air conditioning, brakes, and so forth. So there's nothing really that you can do on that car. And for people who are entering the sector, it is surprising that it leans more on the electrical side more than the motor mechanic side.
Oh, you mean where they are lacking in info or where their interests lie?
The interest.
Oh, okay. I'm very surprised to hear that. Can you maybe share with us why you think that is the case?
I think the case is more on obviously looking at our environment at the moment. The requirement is more on the electric side, more than your traditional hybrids or your ICE cars.
In terms of, passing down that knowledge, and I think, Louis, you possibly be able to speak to this. We still have a whole lot of much older vehicles that have a different way of being fixed. There is a whole new generation that has not even been inside a car like a bug, where you'd go to the back expecting to store things and then find, a whole engine there.
Yes.
How do you ensure that all of that information is still keeping with young people? Because many people are still loving their older vehicles or their vintages and they're collecting.
Correct. Lebo, excellent question. So South Africa has got the benefit. We've got a vehicle park ranging from older vehicles to very, very new vehicles. And as I've mentioned earlier, our legislation and our skills backbone and the spine of our skills development is extremely strong. So we get the likes of private providers and TVET colleges that really do accommodate learners from a wide range, and they expose themselves to older cars. Myself and Boitumelo had the privilege to go into a couple of training providers and TVET colleges So you'll see the likes of training vehicles. It will be older vehicles. Ford as a company made a kind donation that many of the TVET colleges received a Ford Ranger bakkie. And that was a couple of years ago as well. And, we are thankful and grateful, so that the learners can be exposed to a wide range. Coming to electric vehicles, in terms of what's unfolding now, and you actually caught us on a very good day today, because tomorrow is the first day of a Masita scoping and profiling meeting for this EV qualification.
Yes.
So I think you have got a breaking news story. So so tomorrow afternoon at 2, it's going to be a virtual session from 2 until 4:30. So we will have the likes of some of the manufacturers that's going to send representatives and some other subject matter experts. And we have got a lady that's a facilitator that's going to facilitate the process. For Masita, they appointed it, and the QCTO gave a blessing, and we're very thankful so that we can have a national recognized qualification in the country.
Which we know is exceptionally important to have it recognized and accredited so that you're not getting scammed in the process. And we know the motor industry is one where many are susceptible to be scammed because of the lack of awareness and certain details. Would Dumelo maybe chat to me really about are there opportunities for people that maybe aren't 18, 19, fresh out of school, that decide, you know what, I want to pivot, or I actually have a passion for cars and I want to take the time to go and learn how to just help my own car?
Yeah, because this is quite new. There's still an opportunity for people who have not, for people who does not have experience in the sector to come. And with any other skill, it's something that you learn, and it's a lifetime skill. You can use it anytime. It is not something that only limits you up to a certain age group. So if you learn now, you can still use it even in your retirement.
And what kind of career opportunities, and this is not just to the EV, but in general, Louis, can a person get access to if they are listening and they're quite interested in pursuing this? We know we've got a whole lot of matriculants that some of them next year, they don't even have plans or direction of what they'd like to do.
Lebu, again, you're asking a lot of good questions. So this one...
this one is my job. I have to.
I know that. So Lebu, it actually creates the opportunity to just... emphasize some of the good work that some of our CETAs, especially W&R CETA, have got a nice portal in terms of career guidance, which mom, dad, anyone can click on, and it will explain the process very, very easily. Masita has also got lots of information on careers. Masita has got a bus, believe it or not, that moves around the country and actually informs our young people in rural and urban areas and so forth. So, Lebu, I think it creates an opportunity also for our colleagues, at the department, education and basic education, in terms of getting some of our industry colleagues involved. We see that some of the other countries in the world invite like a motor mechanic, or invite like a firefighter, and invite like a surgeon or a fighter pilot or whatever into the classroom. So it might just create an opportunity for our departments to also think about that. Even at a young age, if you can install something in like becoming a motor mechanic in a child at 5-6 years old, that image might stick, and he will say, listen, my mom is doing it, my dad is doing it, my nephew is doing it, my cousin is doing it, maybe I can try my hand in it. And, I've learned from the College of Cape Town facilitator, Rashid Arikari. Rashid always has got the saying and he says it to me quite often, and to Boitemelu, Louis, skills I can teach, but passion I can't. So, that's important also for young people to realize. If I've got a dream and a passion, anything is achievable. They can become anything. And I think for us as organizations, entities, media and so forth, we can do a little bit better in terms of promoting, certain careers, certain industries. There's some snazzy words. If you look at the skills jargon, they talk about horizontal articulation and vertical articulation. But for a grade 11 and a 12, Lebo, it's actually up to us to explain, to say, yes, if I'm a motor mechanic, I can actually go this way, left or right, or up and down.
Yes. And then finally, how do you get the motor industry and all the manufacturers to actually participate in the training? Because the more different models, the better, especially when we see how the Chinese are changing the game.
Yeah, Lebo, good question. So what will happen is, if we manage to pull through, and I've got 110% confidence in the Masita, the facilitator that they've appointed. We've got the QCTO behind us, the DHET, a guy like Sabelo Buthelezi at the DHET, and he's a chief director in charge of Centre of Specialization at TVET colleges. They are looking with very, very keen interest. So a national recognized qualification in electric vehicles or electromobility is really going to create the opportunity for the likes of manufacturers to say, yes, we are doing training already, and they can call it product-specific training, or they go into vehicle dealerships or approved motor body repairers, and they do training. Now they will have an opportunity to align the material that they are using now to the national recognized qualification. So if me, you, Boitemelu, attend a manufacturer a course, we now can literally walk out after they've aligned it to the national qualification with a certificate to say, listen, it was delivered by ABC vehicle manufacturer, but there will be a number, like an occupational skills program number, that actually gives me and you mobility. Yes, there is going to be a distinction between if it is a BMW that does training, or a VW, or a Mazda, or a Toyota, or whatever. But what's important with a national qualification, it all goes back to the structure of a national of a national qualification in the country. So South Africa has got what we call national qualifications framework.
So what I'm going to do, just because we've run out of time, rmi.org.za, the Retail Motor Industry Organization. Get in touch there. For those of you that want your young folks in the house, or maybe not even the so young folks, to get in touch and find out about the accreditation.
Day 20, awaiting proof of payment. Day 30, still waiting. Day 40, funds finally cleared. In business, credit with 55 interest-free days keeps you moving. We get it. Get an ABSA business credit card. Use over 50% of your credit, and initiation fees will be on us. Offer ends 31 December 2025. Apply at absa.co.za/business. ABSA is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply. ABSA, your story matters.